The narrative sold to the public is one of kinetic spectacle. Reports highlight Lockheed Martin boosting Patriot missile production, source number 2, focusing the threat calculus on incoming munitions. This is a strategic feint. The primary vector of systemic risk is not the sound of an explosion, but the profound silence that precedes it. The global financial system does not run on goodwill. It runs on fiber optic cable. According to CSIS analysis, 95% of all transcontinental data traffic, trillions in daily financial transactions, travels through a few hundred undersea cables. These are the undefended arteries of Western solvency. Severing them is not an act of war, it is an act of economic liquidation. The second vector of this silent attack targets the central nervous system, satellite constellations. Reports from RUSI indicate escalating capabilities in non-kinetic attacks, dazzling, jamming, and cyber intrusion, designed not to destroy satellites, but to render them useless, to induce temporary but total strategic blindness. The objective is not to defeat a nation-state's military. The objective is to create a blind Leviathan, a superpower with unmatched kinetic force, but with its eyes plucked out and its neural pathways severed. A nation that cannot see an attack, cannot verify its treasury, and cannot communicate launch orders. In this state of induced paralysis, its high-cost defense systems become liabilities, not assets. The pivot away from conventional warfare is not a strategic choice. It is an accounting decision. It is triggered when a nation-state's balance sheet approaches zero. This is not a war of territory. It is a solvency crisis. CSIS analysis confirms that prolonged, unpopular kinetic conflicts evolve into a catastrophic domestic liability. The burn rate on military hardware, personnel, and logistics outpaces the state's ability to generate revenue, creating a death spiral for national liquidity. The war becomes mathematically unsustainable. The adversary understands this blueprint. They force a zero-sum economic conflict. While Lockheed Martin is tasked with boosting production of multi-million-dollar Patriot missiles, the asymmetric threat is designed to be orders of magnitude cheaper. The objective is not to defeat the missile, it is to bankrupt the treasury that buys it. This financial vulnerability becomes the primary attack vector. Economic seizures, such as the U.S. interdiction of Russian-flagged tankers, are not peripheral actions. They are direct, systemic attacks on solvency, designed to accelerate the crisis and force the weaker power's hand. Faced with economic collapse and the inability to afford a symmetric defense, the protocol is immutable. Weakness forces a pivot. The adoption of low-cost, high-impact systems seen in Israel's drone swarms or China's cyber campaigns is not a tactical novelty. It is the only economically viable lever remaining. The central mechanism is a hostile arbitrage of lethality. A Royal United Services Institute, RUSI, report breaks down the mathematical certainty of this protocol. An adversary deploys a $500 commercial drone to destroy a $5 million main battle tank. The kinetic cost-exchange ratio is 10,000 to 1 against the defender. This is not a sustainable defense model. It is a blueprint for national bankruptcy. This imbalance creates what intelligence analysts call the democratization of violence. High lethality, standoff attack capabilities that were once the exclusive domain of superpowers are now accessible to smaller states and even non-state actors. The pivot by Israel's Ministry of Defense to autonomous drone swarms for border security is not an experiment. It is an admission that conventional defense has reached its economic limit. The goal is to match the low cost of the threat. The attack surface is not limited to kinetic assets. It is systemic. Reports from CSIS confirm China's intensified cyber attacks targeting Taiwan's energy sector. The objective is identical. Use low-cost digital weapons to threaten high-cost physical infrastructure, forcing the defender into an economic death spiral of infinite patching and hardening. This is compounded by direct economic warfare, such as the U.S. seizure of Russian-flagged tankers, a move designed to attack liquidity and solvency directly, bypassing kinetic conflict entirely. The result is a solvency crisis masquerading as a military one. A state like the United States is forced to ramp up production of multi-million-dollar defense systems, like the Patriot missile manufactured by Lockheed Martin, to counter threats that cost fractions of a percent to deploy. This is the weaponization of an adversary's balance sheet. The objective is not to win on the battlefield. The objective is to make showing up to the battlefield an economic impossibility. The regional instability you are being shown is not the disease. It is the laboratory. These flare-ups, from border crises to urban decay, are not failures of local governance. They are gray zones, live fire testbeds for a new doctrine of economic attrition. While you watch the symptom, adversaries are calibrating the weapon system, strategic bankruptcy. This doctrine is built on radical cost asymmetry. The Israeli Ministry of Defense is pivoting to autonomous drone swarms for security. Consider the blueprint. A $500 drone swarm can trigger a multi-million-dollar defensive response. Simultaneously, Lockheed Martin reports it will boost Patriot missile production. This is not a signal of strength. It is a systemic liability. The cost per intercept is designed to be an unsustainable economic drain, turning a nation's most advanced defenses into a self-liquidating asset. The gray zone attack surface is not limited to kinetic costs. According to reports, China has intensified cyber attacks on Taiwan's energy sector tenfold. This is a template for inducing paralysis without firing a shot. Concurrently, the weaponization of finance is being perfected. The U.S. seizure of Russian and Venezuelan-linked oil tankers demonstrates the protocol. Choke points are no longer just military, but economic. These are not disparate events. They are coordinated rehearsals for a full-spectrum solvency attack. Analysts at RUSI and CSIS have modeled the endgame of this strategy. When a nation-state is bled dry, defending against low-cost asymmetric attrition, when its solvency is compromised to the point that conventional defense is no longer an economic option, its strategic calculus is forced to a final, logical conclusion. The last remaining lever is not diplomacy. It is escalation. A launch-on-warning posture for tactical nuclear assets becomes the only viable mechanism to restore leverage. This is not a breakdown of talks. It is the mathematical endpoint of zero-sum economic warfare. The strategic protocol, known as launch-on-warning, is a relic of Cold War game theory. According to analysts at CSIS, the doctrine mandates a full-scale retaliatory strike the instant an adversary's missile launch is detected, before impact. The logic is brutal. It prevents a decapitation strike from succeeding. It ensures mutual destruction. This protocol, however, was designed for a world of verifiable kinetic threats. That world no longer exists. Today's battlefield is defined by economic asymmetry. An adversary's objective is not to win a kinetic exchange, but to bankrupt the defender. Reports confirm Lockheed Martin is boosting production of high-cost Patriot missiles. Simultaneously, state actors like Israel are pivoting to low-cost autonomous drone swarms for security. The math is simple. $1 million missile is used to destroy a $1,000 drone. This is not defense. It is a planned solvency crisis. The primary accelerant is the cyber vector. It is no longer theoretical. China's intensified cyber attacks on Taiwan's energy sector provide the blueprint. The target was not military, but critical infrastructure. The same vector that can cripple a power grid can blind a nation's early warning radar network. The very system launch-on-warning depends on. This creates the fog of digital war. A commander's primary screens go black. The data feed from the early warning system is dead. The question is no longer, are we under attack, but is the absence of data the attack itself? Is it a network failure, or a sophisticated cyber bluff masking an incoming swarm of low observable assets? The protocol offers no guidance for this ambiguity. In this state of induced paralysis, the commander is forced to launch out of fear. Hesitation risks annihilation if the threat is real. Launching risks global escalation if it is a bluff. The cyber attack, a nearly cost-free action, forces the conventionally superior power to confront a binary choice with civilization-ending consequences. The decision is removed from human hands. It becomes a pre-programmed response to engineered uncertainty. This is the final lever. The next phase is not launched with missiles. It is triggered by an algorithm. The objective is not territory. It is the systemic insolvency of the adversary. We have seen the preliminary stages. State-level asset seizures on the high seas are now standard operating protocol. This, however, is overt. The critical vector is the calibration shot, an attack designed to be impossible to attribute, maximizing economic damage while minimizing the political justification for a kinetic response. According to CSIS analysis, the tenfold spike in cyber attacks on Taiwan's energy sector is not a warning. It is the final dress rehearsal. Therefore, the forecast is an extrapolation. Within the next 12 months, expect a 48 to 72-hour operational blackout at a primary U.S. economic choke point. Target vectors are the Port of Los Angeles Long Beach Logistics Network or a primary AWS data cluster in Northern Virginia. The event will be officially attributed to cascading grid failure or a zero-day software vulnerability. No state will claim it. The signal is a direct message to the Federal Reserve and the Pentagon, a demonstration of leverage, proving an ability to sever economic solvency at will and rendering high-cost defense systems a mathematical liability.